at each community is key, but we can't look at it, it's not the total solution. Towns upstream have to be accountable to ensure that we do not continue to cause flooding problems for downstream communities. Will DEP, EPA, Army Corps amend, change their approach, and how? What can we do as residents to help them prioritize?
Well, the first thing is that on the issue, upstream issue we're talking about, New Jersey has a tradition, and a pretty strong tradition of home rule. And so each one of these towns, they're making judgments about development, which is what I think you're alluding to. Just there's too much development upstream and not enough land to be able to absorb the water. That water flows downstream and has a disproportionate effect at times on the folks who are downstream. Each one of these towns very jealously guard their ability to make their own decisions regarding zoning. I know there's a controversy in Cranford right now about adding, in a mandatory way from COA, a whole bunch of additional new housing that would affect the town already. Is one of the towns that floods the worst in this region. And that's why we eliminated COA this summer and put these decisions back in the hands of the Department of Community Affairs and all more legislation to try to restrict the ability of the state to come in and mandate that you have to build housing in a particular place. Because it doesn't seem to me to make sense in a town that is as ravaged as Cranford was, for us to be mandating that they have to do more development in that town, taking more land away that could naturally absorb the water that's going on. As far as DEP and EPA's rules, DEP is trying to deal with some of these flooding issues on a regional basis. In Passaic, I'm trying to deal with it on a regional basis. We have a study commission that's working right now, an independent group of engineers, independent of the Army Corps of Engineers, who are working to determine what we can do in the Passaic River Basin to be able to deal with towns like Wayne, Little Falls, Pompton Lakes, Quantico, who are chronically flooded and really got walloped in this last storm. And so we're trying to approach this on a regional basis. Down in Somerset County, Army Corps has done a good project in Bound Brook, and you see that work was, if you remember back Hurricane Floyd, did horrible in Hurricane Floyd, did much better in this one. But towns near the West End still haven't done well. So we have to try to do this right on a regional basis. The biggest problem is money. The money to do three different things. First, to try to come up with a regional flood control project, extraordinarily expensive. The one down in Bound cost, I think it was over $150 million over a period of 20 plus years to expect to try to deal with that. The second problem about money is to try to start buying people out. Now, I signed a bill that allocated about $26 million for the whole UAVs program, which is to buy out homes in floodplains, in areas that are chronically flooded, to try to get people out. Because in Wayne, where I was touring with the president, I had a guy come up to me and say, Governor, last week I just got a check from FEMA for the floods in April. So he had fronted the money, rehabbed his house, got reimbursed by FEMA, and now the first floor of his house was ruined again. Well, FEMA and the state government are going to come back in and give him money again to rehab his house. At some point, if they want to, we should give those people the option to sell their house. And get rid of it and have more ground that can absorb this water rather than homes that are ruined. The third issue on spending and the money that's available for this is to try to look at what we can do in terms of giving incentives to towns to not be loading their towns with more development in that respect, in areas which are real problems. Because, this Cranford situation is the one that's forefront of our mind right now, and that I'm having both DCA and DEP look into, because the concern is COA is forcing this new development, and this is going to make flooding in Cranford even worse than before, because you're talking about adding a number of units of high-density housing that will take away more land in an area that already has real problematic flooding issues. So those are the things we're looking at, but part of the problem, to be really honest with you, is it's money. It's a big, big expense issue, and these flood projects are extraordinarily expensive to get implemented. And so what I think we need to do, both with the Congress and the state, is we have to figure out, prioritize these things to work together, see if there's less intrusive steps, less expensive steps we can take to help last thing to remember about this last episode, both Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee, which came right up behind it, is that this is the worst flood in New Jersey in 100 years. It was the 100-year flood. 1903 was the last time we had rivers, both the Raritan, the Passaic, the Rockaway, at the levels they were at, and the Delaware River when Tropical Storm Lee came through. Back in 1903 was the last time they were at that level. Worse than Hurricane Floyd, worse than 1984. And so that was the other thing that caused the huge problems that we had. The only thing I can take out of it, the only solace we can take out of it is that given that it was a 100-year flood, because we were prepared, because we were ready, and because we were careful, we had a minimal loss of life. Now, any loss of life is awful. Awful when we had a first responder in Princeton who lost his life, a young woman down in Salem County who lost her life, some folks in Ocean County who lost their lives inexplicably out on the jetty during the storm, despite the fact that I told them nicely that it might be good if they don't leave. But, we were ready. And New Jersey has responded appropriately. They got to safe ground. They evacuated the places we asked them to evacuate. And we got them back to their homes really quickly. And so, none of this is ever good, but those are the steps we're going to have to take.